And it's Sunday, aka Powders. You go to the fridge right now, grab yourself some nice cold milk, hit that cupboard or cabinet. I want that brightly colored cereal. Pour it into a bowl and get some cereal. Because today is Animation Weekend, Animation Saturday, Animation Sunday. And guess what we're talking about today? We're talking, I don't know, is this a Disney conversation or an overall animation conversation? I think it's it's an inside baseball Disney take. And it all involves Goofy. It's a Goofy podcast. Yet again, I know we're doing a lot of stuff about Goofy, but with the 30th anniversary of a Goofy movie being pushed by Disney, well, we start thinking about things when we see all of that promotion material, all those Facebook posts, everything on X, everything when we log into Disney Plus. They want us talking about Goofy. Well, and guess what? Today I fell for it because we have a big revelation. Let's go.
Quiet on the set.
Camera speed.
Sound production. Take one.
Action!
Goofy was the last great effort to penetrate, pun intended, the male audience by Disney. You might say, well, Pete, what about Gargoyles, right? Gargoyles, couple seasons, big action figure line, all over KB Toys and discount racks. Gargoyles. What about Atlantis, The Lost Empire, 2000s? Heck, what about Tarzan? Aren't all of these efforts to communicate and capture and grow the young male audience? We've been talking about this a lot, aka Patters. So if you scroll through the feed, we've discussed this with Road to El Dorado, DreamWorks. We discussed this with Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Disney, even Anastasia. So it's not just a Disney problem. For example, Road to El Dorado is a DreamWorks. Titan AE, Fox, those were all in the 2000s. But if we go back, maybe like 8 to 10 years before, the early 90s, before we hit Y2K, everything comes down to Goofy. See, Disney had the biggest megaphone in the room during this time. So what they did, a lot of other studios followed suit. And we can say, like, well, Warner Brothers grew their male audience with Batman, the animated series. That's very true. But even something like that will die off and fizzle out. Warner Brothers included, but a lot of people are still chasing that 90s Batman series. I mean, we just saw it last year with Amazon dropping the Cape Crusader animated series, hoping to get in on that still. But what Disney does, we focus on. We also want to magnify. Do we want to say that American animation, in a larger sense, failed the young male audience? Did the animation fail industry wide? I would argue yes, but it almost like ends with Batman the animated series, but it starts with Goofy. And let me explain. See, with all of this talk about the Goofy movie, let me get my years right. A Goofy movie was 1995. It was successful enough for a follow-up, an extremely Goofy movie 5 years later, 2000. A Goofy movie was a VHS, and this is one of the reasons why we keep going back to Goofy. The importance of that VHS in the family VHS collection. A Goofy movie was one of those animation features that was theatrical release, by the way. A lot of people think it was straight to VHS or straight to video. But it was a mainstay. It was a failed theatrical release that truly caught fire in the aftermarket. And in the process of that movie, the movie shifted. It became a Max movie, Goofy's Son. And in my view, an illustration, a symbol, a banner, a flag of young teenage angst. And what it was like being stuck with your parents. That's what a Goofy movie is. So during this time, Gargoyles drops. Gargoyles runs for about 3 years. 95, 96, 97. We even have a Mighty Ducks cartoon. Let me look that up real quick. Give me 1 second. I'm typing with one hand here. Mighty Ducks cartoon. We have it. 1996, 1997. So as Gargoyles wrapped up from 95, 96, 97, the Mighty Ducks, which were, they were ducks, they played hockey, but through technology, they had weapons and they had armor. Cool looking stuff. One of the guys it's like a gold duck hockey mask, very similar to the Anaheim Mighty Ducks logo. And I do view this series as absolutely fantastic, by the way. To counter this, at the same time, Warner Brothers releases Road Rovers. Same idea, but with dogs, which is we're going to get dogs, make them superheroes, but make them dependent on technology. And some of them will have powers. I think one of the dogs, the Siberian Husky, could shoot ice lasers from his eyes. And I'm not exaggerating. Excuse me. And I'm definitely not exaggerating that. So Gargoyles comes and goes. Gargoyles, in my view, that season 3, 13 episodes. Season 2 is the meaty one. That's with 52 episodes. But Gargoyles wraps up with this. It's a hell of a storyline. That's all I'll say, because I do want to talk about Gargoyles in the future. So when we get into the late 90s, Disney starts gearing up movies like Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Tarzan. Tarzan spins off into other material. Like I believe it got a sequel. I believe Tarzan maybe even had a syndicated cartoon series. Atlantis, The Lost Empire attempts to become a syndicated cartoon series. Only gets a few episodes deep. They cut the cord, for all kinds of reasons. They cut the cord, and it just goes away though. So they have a straight to VHS, straight to DVD sequel to Atlantis, but the cord gets cut and the people move on from the franchise. So eventually, with the failure of developing this young audience between Goofy, believe it or not, a Goofy movie, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Mighty Ducks, Gargoyles, Disney eventually says, we have to buy something. So they buy Power Rangers from Saban. And they have that for a few years. Sell it off. A lot of people, I believe, I just want to say, I believe a lot of the Power Ranger commentators out there like the Disney material. We'll just say that. But then they have to buy Marvel. So Disney buys Marvel, and then Marvel Comics, everything that comes with it. And then they buy Star Wars, which is the big one. And now they have their male audience. But all of this, though, it stems back to an animated series so many people forget. See, a Goofy movie became influential because for about 15 years, a generation of kids watched it, and it just floated around from house to house, essentially. Clamshell VHS floating all over the place. But we go back to 1992. We have 2 seasons, almost 80 episodes combined, of Goof Troop. All the characters, the situation, Goofy being a single father, raising Max, living next door to Pete, his arch nemesis. Pete dates back to the original Goofy short days. The Goofy shorts are callbacks for everything you see in Goof Troop and everything you see in the Goofy movie and Extremely Goofy movie. So, all the early Goofy animations, we'll call it, the animated shorts, they all get callbacks going into the 2000s. It's quite extraordinary. I mean, for example, like Goof Troop, I think episode 2 or 3, they're talking about Pete losing a football game, and he told his family he won. That's a short. Really cool stuff. So Goof Troop runs for 80 episodes between September 5th and December 5th of 1992. So relatively for 1 year. And from the strength of that, a movie came about. So it took them 3 years. So we want to say a lot of the same creative minds about what Goof Troop went into this Goofy movie. A lot of the same crew. They just said, we can't do this on syndication. Now, Disney at the time found this fool's gold with their weekly Disney animated 2 hours. It was 2 hours. You would get like 4 Disney cartoons. You would get DuckTales, Rescue Rangers, Darkwing Duck, Bonkers sometimes, Tailspin, Gummy Bears. It goes on and on. But they had we want to say like 6 to 8, 6 to 9, because I do believe Mighty Ducks was a little bit of the end of the Disney syndicated hour or 2 hours. But DuckTales, right, went on. Rescue Rangers went on. But that didn't develop an audience. They didn't get huge action figure lines. They didn't do for Disney what G.I. Joe and Transformers and Silverhawks and Thundercats, heck, even Tiger Sharks did for those toy companies. See, Disney missed the point of the 80s and what happened in the 80s. They stuck to their guns and they did nice, fluffy entertainment, and then realized too late in the game, hey, we need a property. You want to say Gargoyles is the position for that, but when it's not within the culture of your business, it's hard to constantly generate enough, because a lot of, like you have to throw SHIT to a wall and see what sticks. Disney just never had enough in the pipeline to put enough against the wall to see what stuck. We forget, for every G.I. Joe we have, technically even Tiger Sharks. Like not everything was a huge success. The successes of the 80s, it's a three-headed dragon. Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, and Transformers. Everything else is a far distant second, and it only gets worse from there. The 90s developed, we can say X-Men the animated series, Spider-Man animated series, 2 for Marvel and 1 for DC. Batman the animated series. Maybe put Superman in there since they were all promoted congruently. But that was it. The 90s animation got taken over by Marvel and DC. But then Dragon Ball Z comes. And then that's a seismic shift. Dragon Ball Z is the animation that captures the young teenage mind. Even so much to this day. We know that happened because we can look back and we see the Dragon Ball merchandise still in stores right now. It makes you wonder why Disney ever gave up Power Rangers, doesn't it? Because Power Rangers is as big now as ever. Merchandise still selling. And we can look at merchandise sales as a position for this. But Goofy, for Disney, their quest for the male audience started in 1992, where it was a father and son trying to convince children to be Disneyers for life. All right, AKA Powders, thanks for hanging out. I love you guys. Rock and roll.
Okay, that's a wrap.